Before we begin today's lesson, I want to take a moment to thank you. And not just you, but the first 20 people who hit that subscribe button. Back when this channel was small, quiet, and nothing special. I may not know all your names, but I know one thing. You didn't come here for the spotlight. You came because something in these words resonated with you. And that tells me I'm on the right path. In an age obsessed with views, likes, and shares, your presence is a gift. Because you're here not for the crowd, but for the depth. Not to be entertained, but to reflect. Not to applaud, but to live differently together. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for walking with me from the very beginning. This channel isn't just mine, it's ours. For those of us learning to live more steadily, more quietly, and more courageously each day. Thank you. And now let's begin today's lesson. Hello, my friend. I know you're not here out of curiosity. You're here because something in you has been hurt. Perhaps you've been rejected. In love, in your career, or in a moment that made you question your own worth. I'm not here to teach you how to get over it quickly. I'm here to sit beside you and help you understand it more deeply. Because I believe some wounds only begin to heal when we're brave enough to face them with honesty and grace. In this video, I'll be sharing with you 21 lessons drawn from Stoic philosophy wisdom I've gathered after years of working with people who've been through a lot. People like you who are learning how to move forward, not just stronger, but calmer and more at peace. And if you're truly serious about your journey of growth and healing, I've created a free ebook just for you. Standing Strong After Loss, Stoic Lessons for Inner Peace. You can get it completely free just by watching the video till the end and following the instructions at the final part. But before we begin, I invite you to reflect on one question. If you were never rejected, would you still know what's truly meant for you? The answer might just appear in the lessons that follow. Lesson 1. You can't control others, but you can always control yourself. Let me ask you to picture this. You walk into a room carrying hope, carrying your heart, and the other person looks at you and says, "I didn't choose you." Maybe it was rejection in love. Maybe it was a job that never called back. Maybe it was a friend who turned away when you needed them most. I don't know what kind of rejection you're carrying in your heart, but I know that feeling and I know it hurts. When we're young, we often ask, how can I make them change their mind? But as we grow older and wiser, we begin to ask a deeper question. How can I not lose myself because of this? And here's the answer I want to offer you, straight from Stoic philosophy. You cannot control other people. You cannot force them to love you, to understand you, or to see your worth. But you can always control how you respond. This isn't about denial or indifference. It's a reminder. If your emotions are always dictated by someone else's reactions, then you've handed over the reins of your life to them. They might reject you out of fear, ignorance, misunderstanding, or simply because they're struggling with their own battles. Their rejection does not define your value. It only reflects the limits of their perception in that particular moment when your paths crossed. A woman once told me her story. She was 62. After 30 years of marriage, her husband left, replaced her, hurt her to the core. Tears in her eyes, she said, "I lived for others for so long that when I was left, I no longer knew who I was." But you know what? That very day, she began the journey back to herself. She stood back up, refusing to let someone else's decision shape the rest of her life. I share her story because maybe you're at that same point right now. So remember, you can't control others, but you can choose not to explode in anger, not to destroy yourself, not to live waiting for someone else's validation. You can choose to stay calm, to be gentle with yourself, and to keep walking like someone who never lost their worth, even if someone failed to see it. That is the kind of freedom the Stoics speak of. Have you ever faced a rejection that made you question your own worth? If so, share it in the comments below. We'll read it. We'll listen. We'll walk this path with you. And if this lesson resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch till the end of the video to receive the free ebook I've prepared for you. Lesson 2. Emotions are real, but they're not your destiny. I want to invite you to do something simple. Feel. Feel the sadness, the disappointment, the anger, maybe even the sting of betrayal if it's there. There are too many voices telling you to toughen up, move on, don't think about it. But if you're around 60 like I am, you'll know this truth. Nothing truly heals if we keep pushing it away. When you're rejected, it doesn't mean you're weak for feeling pain. It means you're human. A human being with a heart that still feels deeply. And that is a gift. I once spoke to a man who had just lost his job of 25 years due to company restructuring. He didn't shout, didn't blame, didn't cry, but his eyes were hollow. He said to me, "I don't have the right to feel sad. I'm the provider." Do you know what happened? The emotions he buried turned into depression, quiet, persistent, and harder to treat than any physical wound. The Stoics never taught us to suppress emotion. They taught us to face it, to acknowledge it, but not to let it dictate our lives. You are allowed to grieve. But remember, this sadness does not mean failure. Pain does not mean you were wrong. It simply means something didn't go the way you hoped. And that is life. Emotions are real, like waves in the sea. They rise, they crash over you, but they also retreat if you don't resist. The problem isn't the wave. It's the way we keep flailing inside it instead of learning how to float. Next time you face rejection, instead of asking, "Why me?" try asking, "What am I feeling? And what do I want to do with this feeling?" That simple shift keeps the power in your hands, and that's what Stoicism taught me. Emotion isn't the enemy unless you let it rule you. If you're going through something heavy, please remember it won't last forever. Let it pass through. And while you wait, protect what matters most: your dignity, your resolve, and your tenderness toward yourself. You don't need to be strong today. You just need to be honest. And one step at a time, you will rise again. Lesson 3. Rejection doesn't define your worth. It's just a step on the journey. There's a common illusion that when someone says no to you, you think you're worth less. When a door closes, you think it's the end. But I invite you to see things from a different perspective. I once worked with a woman 58 years old, a dedicated teacher let go by her school because she no longer fit the modern teaching model. She told me, "It feels like I've been pushed out of the world, like no one needs me anymore." In that moment, she made the mistake many of us make, confusing an event with her identity. Rejection is an event. It is not your essence. I told her, "If a tree is blooming and someone dislikes its flowers, does that make the tree wrong?" She went silent, and then she wept. The same goes for you. A rejection does not make you less than. It cannot erase the value you've spent decades building. Think back on your life. Haven't some of your deepest pains become the doorway to something better? A closed door forced you down a path you might never have chosen otherwise. A person who left brought you back to yourself. I'm not saying this to comfort you. I'm saying this as someone who's been there, someone who's lost, been rejected, and once believed I had nothing left. Until one day I realized no one gets to determine my worth except me. The Stoics call this intrinsic value. It doesn't come from praise, and it doesn't vanish with rejection. Rejection isn't a life sentence. It's a checkpoint. Sometimes it's a signal to ask, am I still on the path that's right for me? Sometimes it's a test. to see if you can walk forward without applause, without agreement. So please remember this. Just because they don't see you doesn't mean you're invisible. Just because they don't choose you doesn't mean you're unworthy. What matters most isn't what they say. It's what you say to yourself after. If you've ever mistaken rejection for a reflection of your worth, leave a comment below. Let's unravel that misunderstanding together with the calm clarity of Stoic wisdom. Lesson 4. Learn to reject. Rejection. When someone says no to you, what happens inside? A flicker of doubt, a quiet ache, or a sharp cut, thin, invisible, but deep. I've seen it time and again. People in midlife who don't fall because of major events, but because of a single, seemingly small rejection from someone they once trusted. Not because the words were cruel, but because they allowed those words to take root in their heart. The Stoics have a name for this inner ascent. It means the world can say whatever it wants about you, but it only affects you when you agree with it. Rejection only truly wounds when you accept the belief that you deserve to be rejected. Let me tell you a story. A man I once knew, he was a musician. He submitted a piece to a competition and the judges told him, "Too simple, lacks depth." He said nothing, went home, and burned his entire collection of compositions. Not because he was weak, but because he forgot one essential truth, that rejection is opinion, not objective reality. So here's what I want you to practice. Learn to reject the rejection. When someone says, "You're not good enough," ask yourself, compared to what? When someone says, "I don't choose you," quietly remind yourself, then the one who will choose me must be elsewhere. You don't need to fight back to prove them wrong. You just need to protect your mind. Don't let it become a graveyard for someone else's opinion. Be the emperor of your own mind. No anger, no retaliation, no self-doubt, just a quiet, grounded presence. Rejection is their decision. Believing you're unworthy, that's yours. The Stoics didn't teach us to run from rejection. They taught us to let it pass like a gust of wind brushing our face. You feel it, but you don't let it carry you away. So next time someone doesn't choose you, smile gently and say to yourself, "That's okay, I choose me." Have you ever let a rejection live too long inside your heart? If so, write it in the comments below. Let it go. And if this lesson spoke to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with me on this journey of inner resilience. Lesson 5. Mental strength like a muscle. It grows through rejection. There's something I've learned at 60, something I wish I'd known sooner. Your emotions are like muscles. If you don't train them, they weaken. And one of the most challenging mental workouts you'll ever face. Rejection. I once spoke to a businessman who had gone bankrupt 3 times. I asked him, "How did you endure that?" He smiled, lit a cigarette, and said, "At first I didn't, but over time, I got numb. I stopped treating every rejection like a punch to the gut. I sat in silence, thinking of the old Stoic wisdom. Nothing will make you stronger than the very thing that once brought you to your knees. You don't need to become cold or emotionless. You just need the courage to stand up again after every disappointment. I call that emotional endurance. Just like in physical training, you don't expect your muscles to stay comfortable. You know they have to stretch, strain, even hurt, to grow. The mind is the same. If you want to be calmer, deeper, steadier, you must be willing to face more rejection. It sounds ironic, but it's true. It's through slammed doors, being misunderstood, and not being chosen that you learn I'm still here. I still have choices. I still have my own path. People might say, "You're too sensitive," but I don't believe that. I think you just haven't trained enough yet. Every rejection is a mental weight lifted. And do you know what happens when you lift long enough? You stop trembling at the word no. You simply shrug, smile, and keep walking. Are you avoiding rejection? Because you fear the pain, the shame, or being judged? I get it. But I also know this. If you don't step into discomfort, you'll never build strength. Treat rejection like a tough coach. Unpleasant, yes, but transformative. If you keep showing up, you'll see yourself change, stronger, freer, calmer. If you've ever faced a mental weight that helped you grow, share your story in the comments below. And if this lesson resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch till the end to receive the free ebook I created for your healing journey. Lesson 6. Treating no like a game. Can you remember the last time you were rejected? An invitation unanswered, a message left unread, an opportunity that slipped away. That feeling is all too familiar, isn't it? It comes fast, cuts quietly like a cold wind across your chest. And you shrink back. You hesitate. You stop reaching out. I used to be like that. And nearly everyone I've worked with, whether they're 50, 60, even 70, has carried that same fear, the fear of rejection. But there's something I've learned through Stoic philosophy, through therapy, and through personal failures. If you want to overcome the fear of no, you have to go looking for it. Sounds crazy. Maybe. But it works. I call it the rejection game. Every day set a goal to get rejected just once. That's it. Call someone you'd like to work with. Offer help to someone you barely know. Send an email apologizing for something long past. The more you train yourself to hear no, the more you'll realize it's not nearly as scary as you thought. I have a friend, he's 63. After retiring, he started baking and decided to sell at the local weekend market. Week 1. No one bought. Week 2. He sold 1 cake. He came home smiling and said, "Another rejection today. 1 more point." By month 3, he was selling out. Not because he avoided rejection, but because he played with it. The more you play, the less you fear. The less you fear, the more you step outside your shell. And that is where real life begins. No is no longer a monster if you stop running from it. Look it in the eye, smile, say thank you, and keep going. You can start this game today. Try something you've been scared to do just once. Then write down how it felt. Share it in the comments so I and others on this journey can cheer you on. And if this lesson gave you something to think about, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and claim the free ebook I've created for you at the end of this video, a small gift for your courage. Lesson 7. Rejection is a skill and you can train it. It might sound strange, but it's true. Rejection, just like swimming, cooking, or riding a bike, is a skill. The more you practice, the better you get. And the better you get, the less it shakes you. The problem is, most of us were never taught how to deal with rejection. As children, we were praised for obedience, rewarded for achievement, but rarely shown how to rise after being turned down. I once worked with a woman, an amateur painter, 57 years old. She submitted her art to over 30 galleries. All rejected her. She nearly gave up. I asked, if your granddaughter was learning to walk and she fell 30 times, would you tell her to stop trying? She laughed. And in that moment, she understood rejection doesn't prove you're useless. It's simply part of learning. The Stoics never expected the world to be gentle. They trained themselves to be steady when the world wasn't. You don't need to be accepted all the time. You just need to learn how not to let rejection break your persistence. Because the most successful people aren't always the most talented. They're often the ones who dared to be rejected the most. Lesson 8. Feedback has value, but not from everyone. After rejection, what do we usually do? We spiral. We listen to anyone who says anything about us. We chase validation like a lost traveler searching for a light. But here's a hard truth. Not everyone deserves to be heard. The Stoics taught only consider feedback from those who are rational and well-meaning, meaning people with wisdom, compassion, and experience, not those who lash out from pain or jealousy. If someone rejects you out of insecurity, resentment, or simple ignorance, that says far more about them than it does about you. You must choose who gets to give feedback to your life, just like you choose carefully who your child plays with. You wouldn't leave them with someone toxic. So why leave your mind open to anyone's opinion? Your mind is precious. Don't hand it over carelessly. Listen, but filter wisely. And most of all, never let someone you don't respect define your worth. Lesson 9. Comparison will lead you astray. Let's be honest. Have you ever seen someone get the recognition, the love, or the chance, and suddenly you felt smaller? Comparison comes naturally, especially after rejection. You start asking, why them and not me? What do they have that I don't? I understand that feeling, but I also know the cost of feeding it. Comparison is the fastest way to lose yourself. One man I coached didn't get promoted. He looked at his colleague who did and said, "That guy's just a smooth talker. I work harder." But he missed the point. Each person walks a different path, a different test, a different timeline. The Stoics remind us, happiness doesn't come from being better than others, but from being better than who we were yesterday. Were you rejected today? That's okay. As long as you're still learning, still growing, still living by your values, you're on the right path. Comparison stalls your steps. Self-reflection moves you forward. Lesson 10. Every rejection brings you closer to the one yes that matters. Have you heard of the law of averages? If you flip a coin 100 times, about 50 will be heads, 50 tails. If you send out 100 applications, some won't reply, some will say no, and a few will say yes, not because you're lucky, but because you stayed in the game. I once met an elderly man, 64 years old, who started his own venture after retiring. He pitched to 27 investors. Every single one said no. On the 28th try, a young entrepreneur believed in his idea, and together they built a community learning program for seniors. If he had stopped at number 15, that miracle would never have happened. If he had let one no convince him he had nothing left to offer, no one would be inspired by him today. Every rejection is a step. Keep climbing and you'll reach your summit. Don't say I got rejected again. Say one more no closer to the right yes. Lesson 11. Rejection can be a map, if you're brave enough to read it. Here's something worth remembering. The wise don't only listen to praise, they listen to rejection, not to punish themselves, but to understand. Why was it a no? I was once rejected by a publisher. I was angry, hurt. I nearly deleted the entire manuscript. But then I read their feedback. The story has potential, but it lacks personal depth. And they were right. I had written like a scholar, not like someone who had truly lived it. So I rewrote it. This time I added my pain, my experience, and the next time they said yes. Rejection can be a map, but only if you're courageous enough to read it. Sometimes it shows you a blind spot. Sometimes it leads you toward a better road. The Stoics didn't reject feedback. They filtered it. Kept what was useful, discarded what was harmful. So when someone says, no, don't flee, ask why. If the reason makes sense, thank them. If it doesn't, thank life for giving you another step toward a more aligned direction. Lesson 12. Never let rejection rob you of your dignity. There's something fragile and precious called dignity. You can lose money opportunities, even someone you love, but never let rejection take your self-respect. I once witnessed a breakup. A man dropped to his knees crying, begging her to stay. She turned away. People whispered, It wasn't that he was weak, but that he forgot. Love may leave, but your dignity must remain. I'm not telling you to be cold or hardened. I'm asking you to remember. Love careers, friendships, these are roles in the play of life. But you are the director. Don't let any role make you forget the person you are becoming. You're allowed to grieve a rejection, but don't beg. Don't shrink yourself just to be chosen by someone who walked away. The Stoics taught, we cannot control others' actions, but we can always control how we live with honor. And that is true strength. Not in power, not in applause, but in the calm, steady way you hold on to your worth, even when no one is clapping. Lesson 13. The most successful people are often those who faced the deepest rejections. Who are they? Steve Jobs fired from the very company he founded. Oprah Winfrey let go from her TV job for being unfit for serious news. J.K. Rowling rejected 12 times before Harry Potter saw the light of day. Michael Jordan cut from his high school basketball team. See the pattern. They didn't succeed despite rejection. They succeeded through it. I once asked an older friend, he's a seasoned investor, what made him different from those who went bankrupt and never recovered? He said, I went bankrupt too. I just didn't let it define me. That is resilience. The Stoics never claimed to avoid the blows of fate. They simply learned not to overreact and never allowed wounds to become their identity. To the average person, rejection is a wall. To the self-aware, it's the pressure that strengthens the core. Got rejected. Good. That means you're alive, you're trying, you're stepping outside the comfort zone. Better to be rejected for something you dared to do than to never be rejected at all because you never dared. Lesson 14. Pursue progress, not perfection. One of the most subtle traps after rejection is this thought, I need to be more perfect. Right, no. You don't need to be perfect. You need to keep growing. The Stoics never aimed to become superhuman. They aimed to become better than the person they were yesterday. A woman I once coached, 59 years old, told me I feel like I'm no longer beautiful, agile, or relevant. So I guess being rejected makes sense. I looked at her and said, no one loves you because you're flawless. They love you because you're real. You live with values and you keep moving forward. When rejection hits, don't use it as an excuse to turn against yourself. Treat it as a test. Not to prove you're perfect, but to see if you're still learning. A person who commits to progress little by little will always outlast the one obsessed with looking good enough to others. Because in the real race, the one you need to beat is who you were yesterday. Lesson 15. After every failure, pause, reflect, adjust, and move forward. Ever taken a wrong turn while driving? Did you throw away the car? No, you stopped, checked the map, asked for directions, adjusted your route, and continued. So why is it that when we're rejected, we often think I must not be good enough and give up? The Stoics taught, failure is feedback. It's data. It's a map to help you course correct. A man I once worked with, a public speaker, told me that whenever a talk fell flat, he didn't take it personally. Instead, he asked, what patterns are repeating? What am I not seeing? What can I adjust? Bit by bit, he refined his message, deepened his skills, and expanded his understanding. 3 years later, he became one of the most respected motivational speakers for retirees in his region. Transformation didn't come from a massive leap. It came from countless small tweaks after each no. So the next time you're turned away, don't just ask, why me? Ask, what can I improve next time? That question is the first step of someone going far. Lesson 16. Competition reveals character, not just who wins. There's something strange about getting older. The longer we live, the more we realize Winning doesn't mean much if we lose ourselves in the process. I once worked with a man. He was an executive. After competing for a higher position, he was passed over. Someone else was chosen. He didn't argue. He didn't complain. He simply said I wasn't chosen. But I didn't compromise how I treated others, and I didn't trade my values for that chair. That is character. That's strength. That's the quiet wisdom Stoicism teaches. In today's world where everyone wants to be better than someone else, rejection can easily feel like failure. But a Stoic asks a different question. Did I live with integrity? Did I remain true to who I am along the way? Competition is part of life. But it's not about proving superiority. It's a test of your discipline, of your composure, of your ethics under pressure. And sometimes the one who loses today is the one who wins in the long run, because they didn't sell their soul for a temporary title. Lesson 17. You're not alone. Everyone has faced rejection. Do you know that feeling? When rejection hits, the world seems to shrink. You think maybe I'm the only one who hurts this deeply. But the truth is, everyone has been there. I once hosted a conversation circle where people over 55 were invited to share a time they were rejected, but never told anyone. One was ignored by his own child for years. Another lost love simply because he was too poor. Someone wasn't allowed to attend their mother's funeral, banned by their ex-spouse's family. Different stories. But each rejection ran deep. And as they shared, something remarkable happened. They felt lighter, because they weren't alone anymore. The Stoics never taught us to avoid pain. They taught us to recognize pain as something universal and to develop silent compassion for one another. If you're hurting now, please know you are not the only one. We who have lived, loved, and lost may fall, but when we rise again, we rise wiser together. Lesson 18. Emotions are real, but actions shape your life. One thing life has taught me: emotions come and go. But the actions you take while emotions run high, those leave a lasting mark. Have you ever said something in anger after being rejected and regretted it deeply? I have. And I've learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is stay silent. Take a breath. Go for a walk. The Stoics never said don't feel. They said don't let emotions dictate your actions. I once counseled a woman who had been betrayed by her husband. In her rage, she broke things. She texted everyone he knew trying to shame him. She told me I just wanted him to hurt. But a year later, she was still the one in pain. Not because of what he did, but because of what she did while in a state she no longer recognized as her true self. The wound didn't ruin her. Her reaction to it nearly did. So next time you're rejected, I ask you to pause, feel, acknowledge what's there, but then choose your next move so that later when you look back, you can do so without shame. Lesson 19. The Stoic doesn't avoid. They step in and grow stronger because of it. When we're hurt, our first instinct is to avoid. Avoid the confrontation. Avoid the memory. Avoid the emotion. But what happens when you avoid something for too long? The wound doesn't disappear. It just buries deeper, bleeding quietly from within. The Stoics taught the opposite. Don't run from the pain. Walk into it. Face it. And only then can you move through it. I once spoke to a retired soldier. He had been denied support for his psychological trauma. He shut down for years, until one day he started writing, journaling, speaking to his fears. And eventually he told me, I never thought that staring directly at my pain would make me feel lighter. You don't need to act strong. You just need to be honest. I'm hurting. I'm wounded. But I'm ready to walk through this instead of letting it cage me. Rejection isn't a fire meant to burn you. It's a forge, a place where you're tempered into someone more resilient. Lesson 20. Rejection doesn't stop you unless you stop yourself. I once stood before a closed door and thought, maybe I shouldn't try anymore. Have you ever felt that way too? Here's the truth. Rejection has no power to stop you. Only you can do that. People can say no. Opportunities can vanish. But the moment you stop trying, stop hoping, stop walking forward, that's when the journey truly ends. A former student of mine, now 61, once dreamed of studying abroad. She was rejected for a visa 3 times in her youth. And then, she never applied again. She carried that regret for over 30 years. I asked her, "What made you stop?" She went quiet, then whispered, "Because I believed rejection was the final word." But it never is. No one gets to write the final chapter of your story except you. You can fail 10 times. But if you keep moving, you are still in the game, still breathing, still rewriting your path. Rejection doesn't end you. Giving up, that's what does. Lesson 21. Keep going. You're closer than you think to the life you deserve. If there's one message I want to leave you with after all these lessons, it's this. Keep going. Even if it's slow, even if it's small. Just don't stop. Every rejection is a stone in your path. You can trip on it, or you can use it to build your road. I know there are nights you lie down feeling like every door has shut, mornings where you wake with nothing left to hold on to. But you're still here, still breathing, still with a heart beating gently but beating. And that is enough to begin again. A Stoic isn't someone who never gets hurt. They're the one who refuses to give up. You are worthy of a meaningful life, not because you're perfect, but because every day you try to live with truth despite rejection. Keep going, because maybe, just maybe, one more step is all it takes to arrive at the life you were always meant to live. If you've made it this far, thank you. I truly believe you're no longer the same. You've had the courage to walk through 21 lessons, each one a step upward toward greater strength, greater peace. And as promised, you can now receive the free ebook, Healing After Rejection, Stoic Wisdom for the Mature Soul. Click the link in the description to download it. It's a gift I've written from the heart for those brave enough to keep moving forward. If you found this video meaningful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. The journey isn't over, and we will meet again. Like old friends, the kind who have fallen and still choose to rise.